So this is a very special day. When Fenna and I decided to do this about 1 year ago, the first person we contacted was Rick to team up. And in this first call, we said we need Gary Miller in. And then we added one layer after one layer, and this is what we finally have. And today we are knocking on policy door. So this is not your normal scientific meeting. You will not find abstracts, no industry exhibition. You will not have the PhD students and postdocs coming here with their posters. It is all about knocking on policy door. And this is exactly what we want to do in this panel, which is, I think, one of the gems within the program. We are very happy to have a number of very, very experienced people. I'm hoping they're bringing them up in a second. So I'm improvising. One of the shock moments in this morning was when I got an email from Rémi Farrar, the chief scientist of WHO, who told me, I have a problem. I have to talk to the science minister of South Africa in exactly the moment here of our meeting. And he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's there talking about the exposome. I mean, what else they would be talking about in these days? Because actually South Africa, this is the big news of today, is the first country to appoint an exposome contact person. So they have a national contact now for our exposome program, which I think is a good start and I think deserves some applause. Jeremy is possibly dialing in, if he can make it, and we will have then to accommodate this panel. But we have three very distinguished panel members here, and we're going to start with this. We have Anna Persic from the UNESCO. We have Peggy for the National Academies of Africa, and Rémi Quirion from the Network for Science Government Advisors. So three people who are scientifically interested in talking to politicians. And we really want to demystify a bit this machinery. Many of you are the scientists who have over the last 20 years shaped what exposome is today, and you heard summaries of this before. It is now about how can we go and move forward and get the ear of policymakers. And let me start with Anna. The UNESCO is very well known for their attempts of open science, of making data fair and available. How would you see that we have to move forward in order to give this the proper space?
Thank you very much, Thomas, and many thanks for the invitation to this panel and to this meeting. It really is an exciting meeting because the possible impact and implications of a project like that really are global. And I think when we, from the UNESCO side, think about possible global projects, we really do think about open science and the possibility of researchers and other users from different parts of the world to be able both to contribute to such a project and also then to benefit from such projects. So when we talk about open science, it really is equally about the equity and equality and inclusion in contribution to the knowledge production, as well as access to data, to other services that can emerge from this type of projects. I think one of the important things that we have learned over the years and in our engagements with such global projects, where our role actually is to bring the developing countries on board and make sure that they are also contributing to projects of this nature. Really, it is to, from the beginning, think about these projects as global projects, not to kind of at the end tag in a few institutions just to make sure that you also have developing countries on board. You really have to think about it in the global context, and you have to do the framework that you will be going to discuss over these 2 days, thinking about the different realities that exist in different countries all over the world. And when we talk about data sharing and fair data, I think first you have to think about how do you collaborate, how do you make sure that access is there, and then you will think about safeguards, protocols, policies that also need to be put in place so that this sharing of data actually is mutually beneficial and that you don't have data colonization or other types of kind of unintended consequences of data sharing. But I think in the beginning of a project like that, it is important to really think globally and really engage people from different countries, from different backgrounds. You will have a lot of innovation also in all of these planning phases by integrating people from other contexts in that. I would also like to tell you, I've heard about the Human Genome Project as one of the inspirations, maybe, or models to have a look at while developing the Human Exposome Project. But we have recently also partnered with the Human Cell Atlas Project, which I found extremely interesting and very, very well organized, particularly because they have thought about openness from the beginning. They have really integrated it in the way that they are operating their project, including the data sharing policies, the community protocols for data sharing that they have developed. It really is an excellent model going forward and kind of reflecting the realities of today, the accessibility of infrastructures or other things that might be very relevant also for the project like yours.
Thanks a lot,
Another
Anna.
thing,
That's really great. And I would like to, we will come back to you. I would
Sure.
like to this is a perfect bridge to Peggy Oti-Boateng from the African Academy of Sciences, because, I mean, we want to be open to the Global South from the very beginning. And we would like to understand from you how we can do this, because obviously a lot of the environmental surveillance is only emerging in these countries, but how can we make sure that you feed in with information and participate in the results of such a project?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here and to be part of this panel. The African Academy of Sciences is 40 years. And we partnered in developing the Human Genome Project. We are a non-aligned, institution. One of the key ingredients that I would like to bring here is that we need equitable partnership with trust. It is very difficult if we can't have the trust, and it's difficult if we can't have equitable partnership, because we also generate the data, and it also has to be valued. And over the years, AAS has been partnering with other institutions, and we have very good models. In fact, one of the models that we have now, coming from a meeting, is with the European Union, where we have what they call the ARISE program, is the African Research Initiative for Scientific Excellence. And it has created the opportunity and a platform for science policy practice nexus. And how do we do this? By facilitating the generation of cutting-edge research while supporting the research translation and application to policy and practice. This new exposome is a new thing in Africa, and many of us, even I think globally, are not aware of it. So how do we start? One important area is awareness creation. How do we bring in partners to appreciate what they have and how they can use it? I'm just even looking at Lake Navasha. I don't know, many of you know about Lake Navasha. And if you're really talking about exposome, Lake Navasha is one of the areas which can be studied, because you have the flower farms and there are the nutrients going into the lake, and the lake is shrinking. Why is it shrinking? Because you have the water hyacinth that have taken over, and you don't even have fish, and affecting, population over there. So for us, this program is very important, but it has to be translated, like Anna said, translated so that they will, communities will understand and appreciate, what this whole thing is about. The second one is also we have to develop the capacity of scientists to understand and put it together, appreciating that if you're doing, health sciences is affected by the environment, and is also affected by the genes. And how do we even collect the data? We also have to train, scientists to be able to collect, that data. This is the only way that we can rapidly advance in episodes, because it is new in Africa. In fact, I bounced it off, many of my PhD, PIs. I said, what is this? I said, have you heard about this? And I said, no. I said, go online and find out. So we need a whole lot of education so that Africa, as usual, is not left behind. We work very closely with the African Union. And as you know, the first speaker said, we need to develop those frameworks. But let's develop the framework together. The framework that you understand the African perspective, that Africa is not just giving you the data, but you're also respecting that those who give the data will also benefit from the data. We have, over the past, been overused. We've given so much data and we haven't benefited from it. So it is time now that we work together. So the African Academy of Sciences, as the voice for science in Africa, is open to this new dynamics. And we're open to even build on our existing, platform, our existing model that have developed. So open arms, we want to collaborate. Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask then, Rémi, you are a professional scientist talking to politicians. You're the chief scientist for Quebec, but also the president of the International Network for the Government Science Advice, INGSA. How do you get the ear of politicians, and should we move on the global level only, like this would indicate, or can we be more effective also to use the local and provincial type of government advice?
Thanks, Hank. Thanks, Thomas, and thanks to Anna and Peggy to have agreed to be on that session. I will not give an easy response to you, Thomas. I think we need both. We need the global and we need the local. And what Peggy was mentioning, and I think Anna as well, INGSA, this International Network on Governmental Science Advice, to build capacity in science advice globally. It was one of the first global organization to be started in the Global South, in Africa. We have chapter in various parts of the Global South, over 6,000 members in 130 countries. And we are a bottom-up type of organization. So we need to bring the Global South on board, as Peggy and Anna was saying. It's very, very critical. And we must involve them from day one. We need to be there to co-create the program. I will even add a bit more than that. We need to involve the public. Yes, policymaker and all that, but also the public. Engage the public early because they are the public and proximity government. I mean, cities and region are closer to the ear of citizens. So to involve them right from day one is extremely important. At the level of, if I put my hat more on Quebec chief scientist, I'm very practical and pragmatic, usually for those who know me. So I will suggest that the program here, the Moonshot program, establish what I would call the Excel approach to the Moonshot program. What do I mean by Excel? It'll be EX for exposome, E for ethics, L for law, and S for science. This is based on what we did in Quebec in relation with the genomics. We had the gel type of program. So from day one on all the research program that we had, scientists had to think about ethical impact, had to think about law, about legal impact, to build their science, including expertise on these topics. And that's much easier after that to talk with policymakers, to talk with elected officials. So I would suggest very strongly that everything that you do in the future, you add these components in the program. So maybe in some of the project, it will not be applicable, and that's okay, but at least you ask the scientific team, think about that from day one. And if it applies, then you add it and you build it alongside with the discovery that you make over time. I think it's very, very important. We have expert. I'm sure you have expert in the Global South, have expert in Europe, in the US, but we have expert also in Canada. For example, Bartek Knoppers at McGill has been involved globally on all the thing dealing with genomics and genomics regulation. Now she's very much involved on AI and data curation. So I think these type of expert should be part of the discussion in the future to make sure that the big Moonshot program is very, very global, including the Global South, but also very early, including policymaker, including ethicists, lawyer, the legal aspect, and also I will strongly suggest as well the citizen, our citizen that can be extremely helpful to sell the program as well to the elected official or to high-level policymaker. Merci.
You have some advice how to open the ears of policymakers? What is a sell, yeah? What makes for them the difference between signal and noise?
You have basically usually I speak a lot of my activities in French, but of course I speak English as well. And it's not English to French when you want to talk to, let's say, for a policymaker or politician. The example I will give would be more like French or English to Chinese, to Mandarin. So at first you don't have the same language. You have to learn the language of the others. You really have to learn to listen, not just to go there and say, I know this, and that, and you should follow what I'm suggesting to you. You need to be there, to be humble and to learn, to hear what they are concerned about, to engage them. And I will say that in addition to engaging the policymaker, if you come with partnership with the public, that would be very, very much stronger than if you go on your own.
Anna, the UNESCO has pioneered a lot of projects where the same problem appears, which is bottom up and top down have to be combined. On the one hand, we need global steering, we need standards, and at the same time, we want to include. You have some guidance from this, from your experiences, how to accomplish this?
I think, as Rémi was saying, and also Peggy before, I think consultation with the community that is relevant for the project is very key. These things have to kind of happen at the same time. But if there is a community engagement through a consultative process in different regions, across the different sectors, you will be able to sell, in a way, the project to different stakeholders with different arguments. It doesn't mean that you will be lying. You will just be emphasizing one thing that is more of interest to a certain audience and something else that is more of interest to another audience. And to understand what their needs are, you have to consult them. You have to talk to them. You have to engage with them. And I think this is what Rémi was saying, that for global projects like that actually have impact and that are owned by the governments also and the politicians, you have to involve them from the beginning in the construction of the program, also in formulation of the questions, possibly also even in providing some of the guidance as to how, in a specific context, put together collaborative teams. Is also something that might be very, very useful. So really what we have learned is consultation, participation, inclusion. It is more complicated. It is definitely more complex. It definitely will not necessarily fit squarely into a very well-defined framework, but you will find nice surprises that will actually push the project in one direction or another based on what the needs of the entire community is. So if you want a project that is just for the scientific community, it's just for the scientific community. If you want it to be broader, more global, with impacts for beyond the scientific community as such, then you have to include those different stakeholders in your different considerations and in the different consultations. And again, that has to be part of the process of establishing this project. It's not wasted time. It really is a very important integral step along the way. And I think Peggy was also talking about capacity building. I think this component of capacity building, awareness raising, explanations, learning from each other also has to be integrated in each and every step of the way. So these consultations, those processes are also capacity building processes, and you kind of integrate them as such, not just, you know, you have to tick, we did a consultation with them, they said yes or they said no. It really is a learning process and listening to each other. Again, as I said, it complicates things for sure, but it also solidifies the arguments and the community that will then move the project forward.
Okay. Peggy, I can imagine that different development goals might not be in synchrony here. I can imagine, take the food system, for example. Yeah. There's a tremendous opportunity with exposomics to avoid certain problems, but it can also be costly. It can be, let's say, hindering the development of agro-innovation and moving forward. How could we balance these type of things early on?
Yeah, thank you very much. The food system is very important, and especially where most of the farmers are rural farmers, small farm holders. For example, an example is spraying of, for example, garden eggs. The time you spray and the time you sell. How safe is it? I know the agricultural, that's why, I come back to Anna and say, look, you need a multi-stakeholder approach to a lot of these things. For example, if you're talking about food system, you're not only talking about the farmers, you're talking about the community engagers, you're talking about the agro, we call them extension workers. You're talking about extension workers. You're talking about the fertilizer suppliers. You're talking about the government. And even you're talking about those students, the school feeding program. There's a whole lot. But how do we, explain this to all the people in the value chain? You must, like Anna said, it's not one, one fits all. You have to look at it and be able to explain to each one of them along the value chain. Why don't you have to spray, 2 days and harvest? Why do you have to wait longer? Why do you have to make sure that you don't apply fertilizer when you know it will rain very soon and it will wash down the river? So there's a whole lot, of complex. And fortunately, African countries have developed these processes. It is good to build on it. They are not from the ground zero. We have to build on it, share examples of what we already have, so that we can leapfrog. But this whole thing about exosomes, it's not new. An example is my father is 94 years. Why is he 94? Because way back, he grew his own vegetables. Way back, he decided, I'm going to stay in a place where I can have clean air. Maybe that's why he's much older, but we don't know. But can you use these people in telling their story? How they, the Africans tell their story, build on it. So there's so much that we can learn, from this. Only if, like, Rémi said, we co-create and co-develop the whole process, taking into consideration that it is an equitable partnership. You bring in your knowledge, I bring in my money, the two we can put together, and also infrastructure development. We need to develop those infrastructure so that we can also develop the data. It's no point sending our samples to US or Europe. And this is what the EU project is doing, establishing infrastructure in Africa and creating consortiums. For example, you can have one, station in West Africa where other African countries can use, for the analysis. So let's look at it. It's innovative. let's think through it and develop lasting framework, and also be ready to change as and when, things are changing. It's only by doing that you can get the African countries, policymakers, scientists, communities engaged in this new dynamics of ecosomes. Thank you.
To move once again to Rémi, I'm wondering, what are you doing with your experience from INGSA to see that the right people are heard by policymakers, that not the next lunatic who just knows to spell exposomics is using this as a vehicle to get crazy ideas into the policy process?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and of course, more challenging today than it was a couple of years ago. I think, with all the disinformation and fake news. I think for INGSA, we are based on chapter. So chapter in the various continents. So the experts are the head of the chapter, the one that are already involved in that. Many of them are linked with government. Some of them are more in academia, but we really focus on and use these guys in a good sense of the term. So they are expert in their field, and they can say this person basically is more kind of coming from nowhere and has some biases against, for example, against some aspect of science, and we advise government not to listen too much to these guys. So it's really based on the chapter. As I said, it's a bottom-up organization, so it's really with these guys that we that we interact with. And of course, the academy, like Peggy was mentioning, the academy are very much involved. The various national academy are very much involved with INGSA chapter locally, and that's, I think, very critical. And I will add here that the Human Genome Project was huge. I was when it started, I was as a neuroscientist looking at that and fascinated. But someone mentioned that earlier. In retrospect, it was rather simple. Now you come up with the Moonshot Human Exposome Project. It's huge. And you have to involve the people grown up, build that properly from everywhere in the world. It will take a bit more time, but the end product will be so much more meaningful. So I think, and we're willing to help there, certainly with INGSA, with my hat as Quebec chief scientist, and colleagues all over the world are certainly willing to help, because it's a very stimulating project, and it will change the way we do business in the future.
Excellent. Sophie, you can get us started with one of the online questions, yeah?
Sure. So we have a question from Dennis Nogden, former Minister of Ireland. He would like to suggest a reframing from, instead of focusing on policymakers, focus on their bosses, the politician. And his question is, how can we create a compelling vision for the Exposome Project that captures public attention, as referred to by Peggy, and in turn ignites the passion of politicians?
Somebody to take this. Dennis became a fan of the Exposome, I have to say. We met him at the European chapter inauguration for INGSA, and he's a former Irish science minister, and I very much recommend his article in the Irish Times of this week about the human exposome.
I think we could turn the question back to him. He has a lot of expertise.
Technologically, we will not be able to do this, but perhaps some views on this.
Yeah, but I think I agree with him. Dealing, of course, depend on the part of the world that you are in, but dealing with politicians, with elected official, and there the public can be extremely helpful. They are the voter, and they can influence elected official, and the elected official will influence the high-level policymaker. So that may be a route to go to as well. But there you need to co-create again. You need to co-create and build the program with scientists, but also with the public.
Good. We have the first.
If I can just.
Oh, sorry. No, let's go with the room. We come later to the next one. Jack, please.
Thank you, Thomas, and everybody else involved in the program. Very excellent program. My name is Jack Fowle. I retired from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where I served a variety of roles, including being a science advisor to assistant administrators. I also spent 3 years on Capitol Hill as a science advisor to Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan of the United States Senate when he was chair of the Environment, Public Works and Finance Committee. Also then Congressman Albert D. Gore on biotechnology issues and that sort of thing. My experience was that when you look at administrators and politicians and so forth, trust is a very important thing. We heard this from Dr. Peggy Oti-Boateng as well. And relationships, and being able to count on the word of the people and that there will be follow-through. In a certain country, there have been some actions recently where science has been cut, very capricious action been taken. And I know for any policymaker in this room, or perhaps you on the line, it might be very difficult for you to respond to a question like I'm going to ask, but I think there's a big elephant in the room and we should recognize it. In terms of programs such as this, the implications for lack of trust is that the politicians in various governments around the world will maybe be slightly reluctant to provide resources and so forth. If one of the partners says, well, I will do X, Y, or Z, but then there's no trust that they will actually do X, Y, or Z. So I wonder if you'd like to, or be willing to any extent to comment on what the implication for this might be for this very exciting program we've been discussing today.
Okay. Somebody to answer to this, and may I ask for short questions and short answers so that we can accommodate several of the questions we still have here, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. If I may come in, this is what we have built, and we have a strategy called equitable partnership, and this is what we all over in Africa, because the relationship, hasn't been equitable over the years. And this is what we're calling for. And once we do that, there will be trust, there will be collaboration. Thank you.
Okay, and here's our fourth entry to the champions of the policy panel. Rémi, thank you very much for making it. I already explained the situation. So we're very thrilled to have you here. Perhaps I'll just leave you the floor and tell us what are the take-home messages. You know, you have my charge questions already. What would you tell this forum from the perspective of the World Health Organization? What would you tell them how to make the exposome something which is helpful and really achieving something? Oops.
Well, firstly, huge apologies for not being able to join. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for not being able to join. My name's Rémi, Farrar, the Chief Scientist at WHO. So, and then just coming in very at the tail. So I don't want to take up people's time. But from a scientist point of view and from a WHO perspective, and I think I caught a little bit that in the last comments. Firstly, we're entering a whole new period of science when things that were done in the past we're moving into a completely new era where what was unthinkable even 2 or 3 years, certainly 5 years ago, now becomes achievable. That's an amazing thing to have done, and it's because of the investment in discovery, curiosity, and basic science over many years. We have to use that science, in my view, to address the great challenges of our time. We have to allow the space for discovery and curiosity, not just things that will deliver a product, a drug, or whatever. And critically, we need to use science and ensure that it drives equity in our world rather than drives increasing inequity. I think inequity is one of the great drivers of the 21st century, and it leads to all sorts of very bad things happening both within our societies and critically between countries. And therefore, I think we as scientists have to make the case that the scientific golden age can drive greater equity and therefore shifting the center of gravity of where the science can be done. I also believe that the current technological and advances, including quantum and AI and things, will help drive this because the bar to entry can be lower than frankly it has been in the past. And so there is now no excuse to use science to drive greater equity at a global level. And the diversity of that input will drive greater science. So hugely in favor of this project. I think it is the horizon. I think it is tomorrow's rather than yesterday's work. And I think science has to provide that sense of where we're going rather than where we've been. And it has to drive a sense of optimism and hope, because the world needs that at the moment and science can provide it.
Excellent. I would suggest we continue with the questions. There's one question here to my left.
Hello, my name is Walter Crompton. I feel that we are, so far, ignoring a new fact of life. Even the poorest person I see on the streets has a cell phone. They have access to a very powerful computer. But it seems that we're focusing too much on a top-down approach here. There's much to be learned, much to be improved, but there is so much that's already out there that is not available to the average person just because there's no consolidated compendium of information. So we could go from, I don't know, eating broccoli to breathing carbon monoxide, and basically set up a spreadsheet that is translatable to all languages throughout the world. This is all completely possible today, and allow everybody, except for the most mentally challenged people, to go into it and find out what, if what they're doing is appropriate, if what they're thinking of doing is a good idea. And
can you
we can't just have it at the
question to
eggheads.
our panel, please?
What?
Can you come to a question to our panel?
I'm just saying we're not.
Okay.
It's not focused on people. It's focused on eggheads. We need to bring it to the people.
Okay. This was a comment, rather a question. So I move forward to Rick Wojcik. He was our keynote speaker. He has not only answers for us, but also questions. Please, Rick.
Well, I guess the question would be is what message can we formulate? A succinct, in my presentation, I talked about what's the bold vision. And the bold vision should be about human health. How is what we're doing going to influence health of every individual across the United States and across the world? The Human Genome Project did that very effectively. By sequencing the human genome, this was going to transform medicine. Congress bought into this, actually allocated $2 billion, made it happen. Now, as I indicated, the Genome Project transformed the way we do genetics and genomics. We can do things today that we couldn't do before, but we didn't bring it over the finish line. So we're hearing a lot from Congress right now about human health. They want to know, why is there an obesity epidemic in the United States? Why is it that we have the increasing incidence of autism and type 2 diabetes? That's what our vision should really address. That's what I found actually will bring passion and interest on the part of Congress, other lawmakers, and the general public.
So who can help Rick to get this message to the policymakers?
Well, first of all, the question is, do others agree with us?
I saw a lot of nodding already in our panel.
Simple, powerful message that the non-scientist, the legislator, the president, the Secretary of Health and Human Services can understand, can embrace, and get around and do what they can to help to make it happen.
I would totally. Sorry.
Oh, maybe I would just add a bit to that. I agree with what you said, Rick, but I will put it a bit less in an American way of thinking, in a sense, if I can be very direct. It needs to be a global project. Talk a lot about the US, talk a lot about Europe. It needs to be global, and we'll miss a big part if we don't include the Global South from day one, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah, and I apologize if I implied this was only about the U.S. It's not. I mean, getting back to my comments, it has to be a global effort.
Yeah, make the world healthier again. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do believe that making it about health is really important. It's something that speaks to everybody everywhere around the world. The specificities of which may be different in different contexts because the issues may be different or the priorities might be different. But also responding to the first question, the message that needs to come from this project is that it will help solve some of the biggest health issues that the populations across the world are facing today. I think that is definitely something that this community has to come up with as a key vision and mission, and then it will be easier for all of us then to sell it to our constituencies and to have some buy-in for that as well.
And also from my constituency of scientists, we should make sure that we want to develop new generation of scientists who look at health from complex, looking at it from complex, aspects, complex environmental influences on health. This
Okay.
is the new dynamic. This is the training. This is the teaching. It's not just you are, how do you call it, a surgeon, so is this or that. You have to know that it is this health is influenced not only by genes, but also the environment. So that is what we need to push. And this is what, for me, from the scientific point of view, or even from the African Union, if I want to push this, we need to have a whole retraining of scientists to understand the complexity of the environment. Thank you.
Okay, we have to should soon come to a close, so I would like to quickly ask the different questions to be posed, and you might take up something of these. Elaine, if you start us off.
Oh, well, what questions?
Yeah,
then?
just quick question.
So, yes, fantastic program, but the question is the engagement of the citizen and the citizen scientists that we saw in the EU report. Here, citizens are defined as the beneficiaries of this, and in exposure assessment, they've been critical for the collection and improvement of where we measure things. So is that deliberate or not? I didn't hear that citizen participation in that part of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
yeah, Kirsten Overdahl from the NIEHS intramural program. My question has to do with how exposomics can influence the change from reactive to proactive policymaking. And specifically, I'm a mass spectrometrist by training, and so in the day-to-day laboratory, as a scientist, what can I and what can others be doing to make sure that we are producing our data in a way that contributes not only to exposomics, but also to a breadth and body of data that shifts toward that paradigm from reactive to proactive policymaking? Thanks.
And last, Sophie, you have something online from the start.
Two questions, in fact. Have you so anonymous attendees, have you considered placing the Exposome Moonshot Project under UNESCO auspices? This could provide an institutional umbrella aligned with UNESCO's mandate to advance science as a global public good, and would strengthen the project's international visibility, credibility, and access to multilateral cooperation platforms.
Okay, last but not least, Vice.
Hi, is this working? I wanted to ask. I wanted to commend Peggy for talking about like the integration into the food system, the complexity, and I wanted to pose a challenge, particularly for this panel and then everyone here, as to how the exposome can better understand the integration of exposure with the complex systems that run the globe, whether it's the economic systems, the energy systems, financial systems, trade, immigration. All these things are very complex and integrated, and so just pushing at the end of the string won't get to where the interventions that really might be impactful might occur, which is maybe upstream and in other parts of these complex systems.
Okay,
thank you.
I suggest we go around the panel and ask you what did resonate of these questions. We cannot answer them all, but I think we hear what our audience here would like to know. Jeremy, would you get us started? And did something in these questions particularly trigger a response from your side?
Yeah, so difficult to argue against any of them. Firstly, I think if it's a real moonshot, I mean, I was old enough just to remember the moonshot when it happened, sadly. It's about inspiring people. It is about lifting people's eyes beyond the tragic news of today and tomorrow and say the world can be better. That's, to me, what is behind this project. Secondly, I personally, although of course I come from a human health background, the opportunity here is surely to break down the silos that are across sectors and across in the UN system, across with the food and agriculture and etc. I think there's an opportunity to broaden the way we see these things. The human genome was a great achievement, and I was welcome when that was done, but it lacked diversity. Let's face it, it lacked diversity, and the world genome still lacked diversity. So unless we see this as a global enterprise of equitable partnership, we won't bring the diversity which is going to be so important to all of this. And then finally, the best example I've got of citizen involvement in science in this perspective is around actually the UK Biobank, where the volunteers in that are the drivers of it, drivers of what happens to their data, drivers of the samples that are taken, the way their data is used, who's it made accessible to. And it's in many ways a model system for how citizen science can own what they're doing rather than be just a participant. Over.
Okay, Anna, one of the questions already wanted to sell our endeavor here to the UNESCO. Do you think this is something we should do, and what you would like to respond to otherwise?
No, it's okay. I mean, preparing for this panel, we were actually discussing here, and we were saying it is an interesting project, and it would be good to explore together with you. You know, is there a way for UNESCO to somehow be involved or used in a way, precisely for what Jeremy was saying, making sure that it is a global effort, making sure that there is diversity, equity, inclusion in the contribution to the project and in benefits from the project. So we would definitely be open to discussions. I certainly don't know yet in what format and how and through which processes, but definitely something to maybe think about moving forward. I think we would be very happy to talk about this further with you. As I said, we have been involved in a human genome project, a human variome project. Now we are partnering with the Human Cell Atlas, precisely because there is further need to expand. So we do have experience here and willingness, and so definitely we would be happy to continue discussing. And talking about, just very quickly, about citizen science, again, I think this citizen science component has to be included from the beginning of the way that we think about this project. So if engagement of citizens meaningfully as contributors to the project is something that would be of interest, which I think it definitely would, then you also have to develop it such that there really is a citizen science component with the infrastructure, with the capacity, with the investment that also supports that particular pillar of the project.
Okay, Peggy.
Yes, thank you very much. This really resonates with the African Union Agenda 2063. We are talking about moonshot, and and we have it this time. And we have just finalized what we call Science, Technology, Innovation Strategy for Africa 2034. This can be woven into it because the African Union agenda is talking about health. We can weave this into it. We're talking about green transition. We can weave this into it. We're talking about capacity building. We can weave this into it. And generally, even in trade, food security, we can weave this into it. So let's do it together. Like, we need a framework. Let's develop the framework together, sell it together with the African Union so that we can be part of the whole global, Anna will say with the science movement, global movement. Maybe here not with open science, but the global movement, in this new thing that we're talking about. So we're prepared to work with you, and the African Academy of Sciences is ready to collaborate and be the focus for this development. Thank you.
Excellent, yeah. And I can share with you that actually the South African Science Forum has invited us for November to present our Exposome project, so there is resonance coming from here. Rémi, last words.
Yep.
Famous last words.
Word. Well, thank you, all the participants, and the question that we had was great. Talking about policymaker, politician, and all that. So I think one way to attract their attention, it was already mentioned by the colleague, is really a very strong program in citizen science. Co-create with citizen, involve the citizen from day one. Then you'll get much more easily the attention of politician and policymaker. So that's a critical piece, I think, that should be discussed with you over the next couple of days and see how it can be done. It takes time, it's challenging, but in the end, the impact is so much stronger. In environment, also, it was mentioned a bit, but do not forget social environment. We'll discuss much more, probably more on the other type, but social environment, having social scientists on board early on is very, very important as well. And my hope will be that in a couple of years, the Exposome type of moonshot program will be kind of a household word that everyone will know. Exposome, yeah, we know what it means, a bit like PCR during the pandemic. People learn that new words. Exposome would be great if everyone know what is the Exposome project and program.
Okay, I'm not sure whether PCR is so broadly known, but okay, wonderful.
Everyone had it tested, so everywhere in the world.
Very, very true. So, okay, please give a hand for this fantastic panel. You heard a number of endorsements here from the major players in this field. We have added others. The OECD, as I said, from the Global Science Forum has endorsed us today. Find this on our website. Sir Peter Gluckman yesterday for the International Council of Science did a wonderful address, which is also available on the website for all of you. I think we are not only knocking on the door, we are opening the door to politics now, and our panelists have shown us how to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.